This is day 1, episode 5 of my modular journey, and today I'm going to be talking about my very first oscillator ever, and that is the Mutable Instruments Plaits. This is a full synth voice, which basically means it has not only its noise-making capability, but it also has filtering. If you use the Timbre and Morph knobs to filter some of the sounds that are coming out of it. It's got built-in VCA under this, the level here. You can gate noises here. You can trigger noises here. So you can get the quick pulses for percussion, or you can get the synth sounds out of the level. Volt per octave, of course. It's got these modulation points, and it's got a normal out and an auxiliary out. And those are pretty interesting. Once you start twisting knobs, you actually hear some pretty amazing sounds come out of it. So Plaits also has two sides to it. It's got a synthesis side and a percussive side. So there's 16 different wave shapes in here. Starting, there's 8 of them for synthesis and 8 of them for percussion. And these knobs all take on different characteristics depending on which mode you're in. So let me plug this in. This is going to be probably a little bit longer of an episode than my other. My previous journal entries, because this is actually where we get to make some noise. So let's get the audio plugged in. So from the mixer, I have 2 1/4-inch jacks left and right, which will go into the outs. The big mixer, the Mackie, and then of course I want to take the left and right out of the ST mix, the inboard mixer, and plug them over here into to outs. So now I have whatever comes into here will be passed through to here. So let's get something plugged in. So I'm going to put out and augs from Plaits over here into my channel 1. I'll crank that guy up, and then I'll start. Let's raise the sound here, and there you go, our first sound. Sounds pretty boring, huh? Slight phasing because it wasn't in tune. So this is again the frequency, and then this is a harmonic. And if you change modes to a different sound, you can kind of start hearing that sometimes it has an effect, sometimes it doesn't, or it works in conjunction with these down here. Oh yeah, so this is chords. It actually plays chords, and then this is the chord selector. Kind of neat. And then this is vowels. And all of this stuff being voltage controlled, meaning you can actually send a specific voltage to these and almost get this guy to talk. So that's pretty neat. That's just a kind of a quick view of Plaits as an oscillator, what it does. Here's the percussive side. I won't go through all these. There's plenty of videos on Plaits on the internet. So what I'm going to do to start with, though, is I'm going to use Pamela's and the clock to just do some really quick demonstrations of the different controls that you can get using the clock, or using these LFOs or gates or whatever inside of Pamela's. So before I do that, let me set this guy back to default. Oops. Set them all back to defaults. And switch over here to 1-to-1. So if I take this 1-to-1 and plug it into volt per octave, for instance, and then take the other 1-to-1. Do I have the wrong cables? let's change that. Let's go gate and then volts. So out of the gate one, this is 1, right? So now if I turn up the sound, you don't hear anything until I start the clock. And now it's, of course, it's doing basically lowest possible voltage to highest possible voltage because there's nothing else set in here. So let me lower this down a little bit. So I like using the lower range here. So there's that. Let's get this guy back in tune. All right, so with that, what I'm basically showing off here is that Pamela is sending a signal to open the gate and close the gate, and that's why you hear the sound coming on and off. Without level, it just runs. And then the second one here is supposed to be a volt per octave. So let's start with that one. I'm going to come into this guy and I'm going to raise it up a little bit, like give it a ×4. So basically now you'll see it's running faster than the normal clock. So that's pretty cool. I'm going to change the wave to random. So now it's all over the place, right? But now I can come in here to level and I can tighten that up a little bit by lowering the level to like say 50%. And if it's too low, I can offset it. So now I'm going to raise the whole thing up higher. Let's bring it a little tighter. And then if I want it to make sense, I can come down here to quantize and tell it to only make notes, only let through pitches that are in a major scale or a minor scale. And then I learned that you can basically use the level and the offset to tune to whatever chord or scale you want to be in. So that's pretty cool. So the final thing I want to show off is using Pamela's as an LFO, aside from just generating wave shapes. I'm going to use input 3 this time. I'm going to come in here. I'm going to change it to a sine wave. I want to set the level down a little bit so it's not so obnoxious. And then I'm going to use this to modify the timbre. So I'm going to set the timbre up a little bit, and then I'm going to lower the. I'm going to raise the how much I want this LFO to affect the timbre. So now if I turn this on. And you can hear it's working on the clock, but if we actually come in here and slow this down a little bit, it'll now be a slower LFO changing that timbre. Or if we raise it. So that's pretty cool. And one of the things another thing I learned early on is if you're using either a clock or a sequencer to control your oscillators, that especially their gate or their I guess it is their gate. Then you don't have all this noise going on. You don't have to keep running over here and diving for your volume knob every 5 seconds like I used to do on day one. So this is kind of I guess this is kind of it for now. I basically showed Pamela's plates, ST mix, and outs. I'll get into MIDI in a later episode, showing how the sequencer can drive all this as well. So, but for now, that's it for episode 5 about plates as an oscillator. It's a macro oscillator. Did I mention it was about $260? So a little spendy, but well worth it. It does a lot of stuff. Next up, we'll talk about Mutable Instruments rings, which is a resonator. So stay tuned for that.